Hi everyone, thank you guys so much for being here. My name is Frida. If you've never been to my channel before, welcome. Today's tutorial is going to be a little different because it is going to be a step-by-step how to do this smoky eye and blend out eyeshadow for beginners who don't really know what all these YouTube girls are talking about. I feel like in today's tutorials, most people are like, alright, so I'm going to take this and put it in my transition shade. I'm going to take this, put it on my outer corner. And me, myself, I am guilty. I'm not saying I don't do that because I honestly do that in every single tutorial. But that's just what us beauty gurus do. We think that it's just, you know, everybody knows what everyone's talking about and you're just on here for inspiration, when in reality, I think majority of the people are here to learn because they're genuinely interested on how to actually get the eyeshadow look and get the skills that a lot of beauty gurus have. And me personally, when I was first starting out, I didn't know, you know, what brushes to use. I didn't know what a transition shade was. I didn't know what an outer corner was. I didn't know, you know, how to get it all blended out and look like a good, smoky, seamless, you know, blended out smoky eye. So I think this will definitely help you guys that are first starting out and really just want to learn how to do a smoky eye or how to blend out eyeshadow. So I hope this helps you guys and I hope this answers a lot of your guys' questions. Let me know how you guys feel about today's tutorial down in the comment section below. I would absolutely love it if you guys hit that subscribe button as well while you're here. And let's just go ahead and jump into today's tutorial. So before I jump into actually applying makeup onto my eyeshadow, putting eyeshadow onto my eyelids, I wanted to talk to you guys about something that's very, very important that I personally didn't know when I was starting out, and that is eyeshadow primer. And basically what an eyeshadow primer is going to do is just make sure that your eyeshadow is applied evenly, make sure it's blending out nicely, make sure it's very pigmented, stays on all day. So it's just a great overall tool to have before you put on any eyeshadow. So 3 that I want to talk to you guys about if you're not in the market for spending a bunch of money on an eyeshadow primer. What I would do is when you're applying your concealer, this one's a really good one for it, like the Wet n Wild Photo Focus. I found that the thicker the concealer, the better. So what you're going to do is go ahead and just put it on under your eyes where you would normally, and then go ahead and put a couple dots of concealer onto your eyelid as well, and then blend it out with any beauty sponge or any big brush, and just make sure that it's evenly blended out, and then set it with any translucent or any skin colored powder. You can also go in with an actual primer, and this is the Milani eyeshadow primer. I think it's $9 or $10 at the drugstore, so again, it's a super affordable option as well. And for those of you that are in the market to spend a little bit more money, I definitely think this one is worth it to splurge on. It's the Maczka Ochre Paint Pot. It's a very, very thick consistency. I would suggest getting it out with a sponge or getting it out with a brush, and it blends out very, very nicely, and it just keeps my eyeshadow on all day long. It just makes it blend out very nicely. All 3 of these are really great options, but I just love my Maczka Ochre Paint Pot. Most of the time I use my concealer though if I do my foundation first. If you're going in with just your eyes first before you do your foundation, any of these will work as well. And now for brushes, I really, really wanted to touch on this before we jump into the actual eyeshadow, because this is very, very important and I didn't know about any of these things. So basically, you're going to need like 5 brushes altogether. These are all great affordable ones. These are all from, I believe, Morphe. Yep, all of them are from Morphe. And I know a lot of you are going to be like, oh, you're so sponsored, you know, you're just trying to get money off of us from like buying your products, but like I don't have a discount code with Morphe. Morphe doesn't know I exist. I just think these personally are great brushes. I love them so much, so I wanted to tell you guys about them because I as well was very hesitant about getting them. Once I did, they completely changed my eyeshadow life. So the first one is the Morphe M504. You don't have to have these Morphe brushes. Basically, you just have to have a very, very large fluffy brush. I'm going to be using this one to blend all of my colors together. Once I do my transition shade, my crease shade, everything like that. So I think it's just necessary to have a big one that's bigger than the rest of the brushes that you're using. You're going to be using one that's just a little bit smaller than this, and I use this one for my transition shade. This one is the Morphe M441. Again, like I said, you don't have to have a Morphe brush. It's just one that's a little bit smaller than the big blending brush. And this one is a little bit shorter, but it's still a pretty fluffy brush. And this one I usually use for my outer corner. And this one's the M433 brush from Morphe. I use this one so much. This brush does is basically it gets all the pigment out there on the outer corner, yet it's big enough to where you can still diffuse it. Whereas if you were getting something smaller like this on the outer corner, you really can't like blend that out, if that makes sense. Like, you're going to put too much product out here on the outer corner to be able to blend it out with this brush. So I just think once you take the most of the pigment off of this out there, you can really blend it in. Now, as far as a crease brush, I like to use this one right here, which is smaller than my transition shade. It really gets inside of the crease, and yet again, it's still big and fluffy enough to be able to blend out the crease shade, if that makes sense. So again, it's just a little bit smaller than this one, and that's the Morphe E17 brush. I'll put all these down in the description bar below if you guys are interested. Again, I don't have a discount code, but you can get many of other ones. You get 10% off your order. I don't have it. I'm not sponsored, so like I said, this is just a really good crease brush to get right up in here, yet still be able to blend it all out. And last but not least, I think this is very important, and is just a flat little brush that looks like this. Anything that has to do with packing on a shadow on your lid, I think this is a great option. Literally got one for like $5 at Walmart, $2 at Walmart, whatever. Like I said, you don't have to have Morphe, you just have to have the idea of what these shape brushes are. Brush shapes are, if you guys understand what I'm saying. So moving on to talking about actual eyeshadows and colors, I'm going to be using this Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette. I know a lot of you are going to be like, well, what if we don't have that palette, or I can't get my hands on that palette, it's sold out all the time, everything like that. The reason I'm using this is because it has a very wide variety of colors, and I feel like I can't show you guys what I'm talking about on like a 10 colored eyeshadow palette because you have nothing to compare it to. So I really wanted to use this one that has a variety of different shades, so I can show you guys exactly what would be appropriate for a transition shade, for a crease shade, for an outer corner shade, lid shade, everything like that. So I feel like I just need to show you like, not this one, not that one, this one, like things like that. So I really wanted to get in depth and show you guys, you know, what's appropriate in this palette. Again, you don't have to have this palette for this eyeshadow tutorial. I'm just using it because it has a lot of colors. And you guys can get some good ideas on what a transition shade is considered and everything like that. Because right along, I'm going to be using my Morphe M441 brush, which is just the big fluffy brush that I showed you. Oh, shit. You don't have to have this one, you just have to have a big fluffy brush, your transition shade brush. So basically what a transition shade is going to consist of is something very light that could be considered close to a little bit darker than your color, if that makes sense. So what I would use is maybe start off with this one. These get a little bit darker, so I would go in as like your second transition shade. But to start off, I think these two would be great as a transition shade. They're just very close to my natural color, but just a tad bit darker. So I'm just going to take a little bit on this brush, tap off the excess, and then I'm going to zoom you guys in so you can actually see what I'm doing, and I'll explain the motions in just a second. So now with that color, I'm going to go right here into the crease and just blend this out using windshield wiper movements, going back and forth like this. And you know, you can go back into your palette and get more of that pigment if you guys want to, and deepen it up just a little bit more. And you can also just do round movements like this, just to make sure that you're blending it all in. It doesn't matter how long this takes you, just make sure that it's blended out. One thing I forgot to mention to you guys is that transition shades are matte shades. So it's not something like these that have a little bit of glitter or shimmer. It's completely matte shades. They have no shimmer to them at all. It just makes sure that your transition shades are blending out nicely. It gives you really nice pigment without it looking chalky, or without it, you know, getting everywhere, without glitter, you know, getting all over your eyes. Now, if you guys want to add glitter, you definitely should do that on like the lid color, but don't do that on your transition shade. Now taking that same brush that I was using, I'm going to go in with a second transition shade, and this is going to be a tad bit darker than the first one we started off with. So I started off with this color right here, and the next one I'm going to move on to as like my second transition shade is going to be this yellow color right here. And the reason I'm going in with something a little bit darker is just to deepen it up before we go in with an outer corner shade, just because I feel like this isn't deep enough, but it gives me a nice slow transition. And I'm just going to put that exactly where I did that other color. For my crease, I'm using this smaller brush right here that I was talking about for my crease shade right up in here, and it's the Morphe E17 brush. And I'm going to be taking a color that's a little bit darker than this one right here, just to deepen it up in the transition from the lid over to the transition shade. So I'm going to use this color right over here just because I feel like it's a very good neutral shade between this one and something a little bit darker. So I'm going to take a little bit of this color. Also, and then after that, you can take this fluffy blending brush that I told you guys about in the beginning. It has absolutely no eyeshadow on it. It's just simply to help blend this out. Or you can go back in with the transition shading brush that you guys used in the beginning. So I'm just taking this shade right here into the crease. Like I said, you can take that transition shade brush and just soften that up. If you lost that depth while blending it out, do it all over again. This is seriously what eyeshadow is all about, is just packing some on, blending it out, packing some on and blending it out until you feel like you have that perfect dimension that you guys want. So now that crease shade is blended out and the transition shade is blended out, I'm going to be moving on to my outer corner. Now what the outer corner consists of is obviously right here on the outer corner. Most people, you know, sometimes don't know that or they're a little confused. So I'm going to be using my Morphe M433 brush, which I told you is just this little stumpy brush. It still has a color on it from the last time I did eyeshadow, but it's fine. It's usually a darker color anyways. Now the color I'm going to be taking is something a little bit darker than what we just used for our crease shade. So I'm going to be using this one right here. You could always go in with something a little bit deeper as well, but I don't really want to go in with something that dark today. I just want something a little bit more neutral and softer. So I'm just going to use this shade right here. So I'm just going to be taking that brush and applying it right over here. So that just packs on the pigment really nicely onto the outer corner. And you can kind of just swirl it around out here. Kind of drag it on the inside. And that really just deepens up that outer corner. You guys want to use that big fluffy brush just to blend it out even more and get rid of any harsh lines. And then like I said, you can always pack on more color if you feel like it just took away too much of that depth. Now moving on to the inner corner are the lid. You guys can take whatever color you'd like, but if you're looking for more of a smoky eye, then you're going to be taking any color that is, you know, a lot lighter than what we just put on the outer corner. So I personally like shimmers on my lid, so I'm going to be taking this color right here. I'm just going to place it on the inner corner right here and all over my lid. And taking that brush that we just used for that darker outer corner, I'm just going to kind of blend it all in using that brush. You can also use the transition shade brush, or you can use this big fluffy brush. And then popping that into my inner corner. Now you guys could always stop right here at this point and just put on mascara and call it a day, but personally I don't like what I look like without any eyeliner, so I'm going to go ahead and put on my eyeliner and mascara, and then I'll be right back. Now that I've finished up my eyeliner and my mascara, this is the finished look to the eyeshadow tutorial. This little basic smoky eye that I did for you guys. I hope this helped answer a lot of your guys' questions and helped you just learn a lot more than just your basic YouTube tutorial. If you guys want to see more of these like how-to in-depth beginner makeup, please let me know if this helped you. Please let me know if you guys want to see more, because I'm more than happy to do these for you guys. And thank you guys so much for being here, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!